Yo, 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 microphone check. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, let's get a couple of users on here or get some couple of the coaches logged in, tapped into the This Week in the PHFL. We, we got some action going on this week, y'all. I mean, man, we're going to hear some coaches interviews. We're going to get the highlight show going tomorrow. So, during tomorrow's show, we'll go through. We got some exciting highlights, some exciting clips from the PHFL. So just make sure, man, if you can, go into your settings, publish your games so we can make sure that I get you on the highlight show. We got a lot of great action that's happening in the PHFL, and I want to make sure that everybody gets some love in the PHFL. So this week, man, we're going to go through some week 5 recap. So we're going to go through look at some of the the early scores from this week's games. We're going to look at MVP. So we're doing an MVP series. Last week, it was Hendon Hooker against Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes really kind of came out with the victory, in that head-to-head matchup. This week we got a really exciting matchup, so I'll keep that one. I'll keep that one close to the vest until we get to that segment. We're going to go through the PHFL power rankings. We did have some slight movement at the top of the power rankings, so we want to make sure we go through and discuss that. And then also we're going to look at PHFL rookie spotlight. So we're going to look at a couple of rookies throughout the PHFL season. Who's actually performing, who's actually making their mark in the PHFL in this rookie season. So, we're going to go through and really kind of tap in to all the rookies so that way, again, we can give them some love throughout this season. So let's really go through right now and tap into really, I want to tap into this week in the PHFL. It's it's been some games this week, ladies and gentlemen, that it's been a surprising season, and I think without any pause and without further ado, I think the really the upset of the week thus far is is really the Raiders over the Denver Broncos. There's been a lot of back and forth between the Broncos and the entire league, and they got it handed to them. They lost to a team that was winless on the season. They had no business really losing to that team, and it was if you don't bring your A game on every bring your A game in the PHFL, you're going to lose. We caught up with the old ball coach at the end of the Raiders game, and we wanted to just kind of go through the get his feel for what happened in the game.
A disappointing loss, kind of a hard-fought game that we kind of felt at halftime this was going to come down to a possession. We didn't make enough plays. There'll be some things, and I just told our team that there'll be some things we like that we see on this film, and then there'll be some other things that we've got to correct. I thought the penalties were a tick high for us. That's going to hurt us. I thought we defended the run well. Kind of go from there. Any questions?
And so again, we looking at the stats in the game, the the Las Vegas Raiders had 493 yards of offense, 279 yards rushing. Or rather passing. They had 214 yards on the ground. But I think the biggest thing, this right here, again, this is, I don't know how you can complete 34% of your passes. 8 for 23, 168 yards, and 4 interceptions for Bo Nix. I mean, it may be time for we don't want to panic, this early in the season, but you got to start looking at everything when you lose to a team such as the Raiders. You got to start looking at everything. Everything, everybody should be on the trading block. Everybody should right now be renting, not buying. So everybody right now should be uncomfortable in their position in the Denver Broncos organization, even starting with the head coach. Again, it's beyond explanation to lose that game. Other words or other action in the PHFL. Coach BG, he's a guy that, when you look at Coach BG and his history, he is known to come out with some schemes. He's known to come out with some things that is going to make you kind of figure out, or kind of question, the validity of how he's able to do the things that he's done. Kyle Pitts had 11 catches for 356 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, Michael Penix didn't have the greatest completion percentage. He was 19 for 41, 523 yards, but he had 7 touchdowns in the Falcons' 70-27 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Coach BG said it, after the game that, hey, listen, we are going to, he said cheese. I'm not sure. Is it cheddar? Is it is it mozzarella? Is it, pepper jack? I'm not 100% sure, but he definitely said that, hey, listen, they've unlocked Kyle Pitts. Now, 11 catches for 356 yards is definitely, a player that was unlocked. I mean, you have to really say that. And, looking at this game, it was kind of a back and forth game, at the beginning. At the beginning of the first quarter, second quarter, the Falcons was up 17-7, and then again they kind of just literally laid it on, and then with Coach BG, he's not the kind of coach that will that will kind of back off and kind of just run out the clock. He's going to continue to step on your throat, and step on your throat. And, we were able to get into the locker room at the end of the victory for the Atlanta Falcons to catch up with, Coach B.G. Morris. And here's some of the locker room speech from the Atlanta Falcons.
Hey, bring it up, fellas. Get tight.
I think that's enough. He said he ain't got to say it. I mean, he said, listen, I ain't got to say it, and literally turned around and walked out the locker room. So, the Atlanta Falcons, again, after that early loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, it's definitely a team that we're going to have to look at, and, we're going to have to definitely keep tabs on the Atlanta Falcons and keep tabs on, again, the unlocking of Kyle Pitts. Elsewhere in the PHFL, his gamer tag in the Discord says it. Coach Wolf in a back and forth affair, a last second touchdown that we're going to show in PHFL highlights on tomorrow's episode, knocked off Coach Marr 42-35 in one of the. We've been having a lot of exciting games in the PHFL. Quinn Ewers, 13 for 24, 405 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Again, just literally threw a last-second dot with about 35 seconds remaining to give the Dolphins the win. And again, Coach Wolf said, hey, listen, in the PHFL Vegas bets, it was only 2 people that picked, Coach Wolf. Coach Wolf didn't pick Coach Wolf. So, he didn't even have confidence that he can win the game. However, they went in, they matched him point for point. And as you see, again, Ewers had a great game, 5 touchdowns, A-Chain, 14 carries for 70 yards. He even had 5 catches for 194 yards. Jaden Waddle, 5 catches for 160. Reek the Freak, 1 catch for 38 yards and a touchdown. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, again, kind of went back to pedestrian stats for 1 catches for 26 yards after a outstanding week when he first arrived at Miami. I believe he had 11 catches for about a $1.95. So again, great showing by Coach Wolf and the Miami Dolphins. Again, and that's going to be a competitive division. When you look at the AFC East right now, it's Buffalo. Buffalo is right now heads and shoulders the cream of the crop. Well, Buffalo and the Jets. That's going to be a very competitive division. And as we transition to the PHFL Power 5, again, one of the games that was our, PHFL game of the week. The prediction was 31-27. The Vikings over the Jets. The Vikings came out like game busters. I mean, they jumped on the Vikings, the Jets rather early. And again, Coach Shifty, you gotta tip your cap. He was able to come back in the game. Justin Fields, again, didn't have kind of the stellar game that he's normally accustomed to. 16 for 26, 243 yards. Did have 3 touchdowns. But I think defensively is where the Jets really won this game from a defensive perspective, forcing a couple of turnovers. 4 turnovers. Again, had 2 sacks. So that's where really that they was able to win this game is with their defense. And the Jets now go to 5-0 on the season. And right now, they are literally they're the team to beat. You can look at the any other team and you can kind of question Coach Shifty, but at this point in the season, there's no question that right now the New York Football Jets are the cream of the crop right now. They're leading the PHFL power ranking, the number 1 team right now in the PHFL by a landslide, followed by the Detroit Lions are number 2. The Kansas City Chiefs hold on to that 3rd spot. They're number 3, and there was a flip-flop. Last week, the Dallas Cowboys were 4 and the Green Bay Packers were 5, but the Packers' victory over the Minnesota Vikings, a great game, kind of gave them a slight edge over the Dallas Cowboys. So now the Green Bay Packers are 4th in the PHFL Elite 8, followed by the Dallas Cowboys, who are 5. Your Los Angeles Chargers, again, Mike got a win now. We're going to have to talk about the trades that right now, I'm not sure the rationale behind the trades, but the Chargers have traded both bookend tackles, Slater and Alt. Again, I'm not sure, but hey, listen, they're on their bye week. This is an opportunity for them to be able to level set. They got a couple of division games coming up. They play against the Raiders, who are right now reeling after their loss to the lowly. I mean, you can't even call the Raiders lowly, because if the Raiders are lowly and they beat Denver, then when is Denver? The lowly of the lowly. But so again, they right now have to level set and kind of, get, their bearings underneath of them, because they traded both of their bookend young talented tackles. Again, I'm not sure why, but again, we try to catch up with the Chargers, and Mike got to win Harbaugh, but unfortunately, again, he said, hey, listen, you know what, right now, we kind of know what we're doing. We don't have right now, we do have a game plan. We kind of know exactly what we're looking to do, what we're looking to accomplish, and, those were 2 great players, but we think what we received in return and what we're looking to do, we think that, again, this is going to be, something that we can look at and be proud of, as far as, what ultimately this is going to accomplish, as far as cap space, as far as, locker room camaraderie in the whole 9 yards. Again, I'm not sure, because both of them were under the age of 27, but hey, listen, to each his own. Again, they coming in at number 6 in the PHFL power rankings. The Buffalo Bills are 7th, and right now they have a game against the Houston Texans. And then the San Francisco 49ers are coming in at number 8 in the PHFL power rankings. And again, they have a matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. But right now, this is literally the Jets versus everybody else, because right now they're playing at a level that, again, you definitely have to tip your cap to Coach Shifty. Again, he's been, kind of a bridesmaid. He's been in at least 2,967 franchises without a ring. He's the Marv Levy of the PHFL. He's the, insert said great player without a ring. He's the Charles Barkley of the PHFL. He's the Patrick Ewing, the PHFL. Insert again, great player without a ring. That's where Coach Shifty. But maybe in the Big Apple, in New York, maybe this is the opportunity for Coach Shifty to exercise those demons and get the, that elusive ring that he has been, again, in 2,967 franchises and counting without getting that ring. But again, we're going to take a look at it as we go along in the PHFL season. But right now, it's the Jets and everybody else. Let's go right now again to MVP chat. MVP chat last week. We talked about Patrick Mahomes versus Hendon Hooker. And again, the PHFL, I think we probably need to get together and maybe vote for the MVP. You can't again, pick your own player. But I think maybe because, again, the algorithms, they kind of go stat heavy and they don't really pay attention to, hey, listen, how many good quality wins did you have? How many, what did you do to obtain those stats? Were those stats in crunch time and things of that nature? So right now, this week's matchup is going to be Brock Purdy versus Justin Fields. Now, looking at this is a very, interesting matchup as far as MVP favorites. Passing yards, they're literally relatively even. 16-18 to 16-15. Passing touchdowns, Justin Fields has 23. Brock Purdy has 16. Passing completions percentage. Brock Purdy is coming in at 67%, 68%, 67.8, rounded up to 68%. Justin Fields at 61%. But Justin Fields has only 3 interceptions on the season. That is a remarkable stat for Justin Fields. Again, he definitely had a lot of success under Coach Twitch, but right now I think the tutelage of Coach Twitch, and now I think that Coach Shifty has unlocked Justin Fields, and he's right now definitely one of the MVP candidates. QBR, Justin Fields at 133 and Brock Purdy at 124. Sacks, Justin Fields has been sacked 13 times rather, and Brock Purdy 9. Again, yards per pass. Justin Fields is averaging 18 yards per completion. So that pretty much gives you kind of a blueprint of what the Jets are looking to do when they pass the ball. They're looking to push the ball down the field. There's no dinking and dunking. There's no checking down. They're throwing that ball deep down the field. Brock Purdy at 11.54, so 12 yards per pass. Justin Fields has 4 touchdowns. Definitely utilizes his legs to scramble and get out of the pocket. Offensive ranking, the Jets are number 1 in offense. The 49ers are 8, and then wins. Right now, as of again, this was prior to today's victory. The Jets, or Justin Fields, has 4, and and Brock Purdy has 3. Now, looking at these two, they matched up head to head. And it wasn't even close. It was Justin Fields 80, Brock Purdy 28. And then looking at some other, again, kind of opponents for the Jets, they knocked off New England, they knocked off Denver, they knocked off Minnesota. Now, the Jets got a good game coming up against the Buffalo Bills. So we're going to make sure that is one of our PHFL games of the week, that we can get some live telecasts, get some guys in the booth that we can call that game. But that should be a very interesting game with first place on the line, in that matchup. And then looking at San Francisco and Brock Purdy, again, after their loss in week number 1, 2, the Jets, they reeled off 3 straight victories. They knocked off the Vikings, the Rams, and then New England 52-35. Again, they got the Cardinals this week. They do have Seattle, and then they have a big game against Kansas City. You got Dallas in there, and then you have Tampa Bay. So I think looking at this right now, you probably got to give the edge to Justin Fields. Probably not even probably, but again, 23 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. Again, a higher QBR, the head-to-head matchup. So I think right now, if we were casting a vote as far as who would be the MVP of the season, and these two were the candidates, you got to give the edge to Justin Fields. So again, we're going to come with 2 more qualified candidates next week to do the matchup. But I think right now we have Patrick Mahomes over Hendon Hooker by just a slight edge, and then Justin Fields by a relatively significant margin over Brock Purdy in the MVP conversation. Kind of focusing because I want to make sure that we also give some love. Again, I know that was last week. Coach Twitch. Again, we had Mahomes against Hendon Hooker. So again, I'm sorry that you missed out on the telecast last week. Coach Twitch Reed, but you got to make sure you tune in, normally between 6 to 7 Eastern time every single day this week in the PHFL. So that way you can make sure, again, that you get the love that you deserve for putting out, great, gamesmanship, and you're making sure that our viewers, are satisfied. But again, we did have Patrick Mahomes versus Hendon Hooker on last week's show, which was yesterday. Now, rookies. I want to make sure that we give the rookies some love. Yesterday, we talked about Jaden Blue from the Dallas Cowboys. This week, we want to talk about Amarian Hampton from the Los Angeles Chargers. This kid is racking up some incredible stats. He has 308 yards rushing on 42 attempts, averaging 7 yards a pop. Also has 258 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. So, again, this kid is definitely is the catalyst for the Chargers offense. And again, we want to make sure that, we go through and we give some love, to the oh, no problem, Coach. No problem, Coach. We want to make sure, again, we clear things up. We want to make sure that we give some love, to our rookies who are definitely out here performing. So I want to go through because we are almost at time, but then also we got some games coming up in week number 6. I mean, this season is flying by. We got a Bears user that just joined. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said that he couldn't be beat. It might have been him or the Rams user, or it may have been both. And Coach Shump gave him a definite PHFL welcome by knocking off the Bears 48-31. The Bears did jump off to a good lead early, probably I think it was 17-7, maybe 21-7, and then Coach Shump, just kind of wore him down, and then ultimately was able to get the victory over the Bears. And I believe the Rams guy, he has a matchup against Coach Spot. So again, I'm not sure. Again, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was some money that was bantied around that if anybody can beat them, that $100 was on the line. So I'm not sure if they realize that this is not that type of league that you can come in and kind of stick your chin out because you're going to get your chin checked. And I believe, again, the Bears user may have been one of those coaches who, was sticking his chest out and, kind of got it smacked up a little bit. But let's see if he'll stick around. And then the Rams, again, it's almost like every time we get a new user, they're facing, some of the elite of the elite. But let's see whether or not the Rams can compete with the Green Bay Packers tonight. Next week's game, I mean, it would have been a 4-1 Broncos versus the Chargers. But again, I don't know what Broncos team is going to show up. I really don't. Right now, the Broncos just look like some cold shit. I mean, we just got to call it the way we see it. We here at the PHFL media, we are unbiased. We are bipartisan, and we call it straight down the middle. If you're playing like trash, we're going to say you're playing like trash. If you're playing great, we're going to say you're playing great. And again, right now, the Broncos right now are a bad football team. Now, what are they going to do against the Chargers? We're going to see. The Browns against the Eagles should be a very interesting matchup. The Browns against the Eagles. I think the biggest matchup is going to be, you got Coach Shump against Coach BG. That's going to be must-see TV right there. 4-1 against 4-1. Kyle Pitts has been unlocked. What is the game plan for Coach Shump to be able to stop literally the Megatron of tight ends? We don't know, but we're definitely going to be tuned in. You have the undefeated Detroit Lions against the undefeated Dallas Cowboys. Okay, we might have to get the split screen up and get 3 or 4 games going on, at one time with these good quality games in week number 6 in the PHFL. You got the New York Jets at 5-0, the number 1 team in the PHFL, going against the Buffalo Bills with Coach Yales. I mean, this is going to be this is literally going to be an aerial assault for both teams. The ball is going to be all over the place. So again, this is going to be a great game. So hold on, Coach TDG. Hold on. What game is not the game of the week? Because you 4-0 against 4-0. You got Atlanta versus Carolina. That's not the game of the week. Like, which game is not the game of the week? Like, Carolina's playing good football. Atlanta. Oh, he said the Lions are whooping Dallas. Okay, I mean, you got Hendon Hooker. He's a 63 overall. Dallas is 4-0, the Cardiac Cowboys. So I'm not sure. I mean, you may be right. But again, we don't want to disrespect the Cowboys because, again, they're 4-0. They are undefeated. So, again, we want to make sure we give them some love. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders against the Baltimore Ravens. I got a sneaky suspicion that Mike S. normally has about 1 or 2 games a year that he is somebody other than Mike S. and mess around and pulls out the win. And I got a sneaky suspicion this may be the week. Now, again, the Commanders with Jaden Daniels pulled off a great win over the Cleveland Browns. So, again, you definitely got to tip your hat, to the Washington Commanders in that victory over the Browns. But again, playing against Lamar is going to be, again, just a different animal and a different beast. So that is it for this week in the PHFL. We talked about kind of a week 5 recap. We went through our MVP versus matchup. We went through our power rankings. We had our rookie spotlight, and then we just took a quick look around the PHFL for other scores. Tomorrow's show will have some highlights. We're going to grab some week 5 clips. So again, please make sure, because I try to go through and I can kind of stream it together a little bit and make it at least, as eye pleasing as possible. If you can make sure that you're publish your broadcast, your game, so I can grab a couple of clips for some of the teams that I haven't grabbed. So I want to make sure that everybody, gets some visibility. We did have some love from a dude on YouTube that I posted the Cowboys versus Ravens matchup. My man said, "Look, man, that's a great matchup." He said he watched it twice because it was, it was a crazy game. So we get love from social media. So again, tomorrow's episode, we'll have another MVP versus matchup. We're going to have our power rankings to see whether or not have there been any changes after week 5. We'll have another rookie spotlight. We'll go around the NFL. We'll have some coaches' speeches as well. And then, maybe towards the end of the week, we're going to open up the locker room, the PHFL locker room, and bring some coaches in so we can start to have some conversations about some of the tone and the tenor around the PHFL. So this is your boy, the old ball coach from our beautiful studios right outside of Washington, D.C., 75 degrees, nice and sunny. I got the breeze blowing through my afro. So this is your boy, the old ball coach, and I am out. Peace.